Good morning, good afternoon, good day, everyone. My name is John Horodisky, and I'm your moderator for this session, which is your brand damn ready? Your damn journey considerations. Before we get into the full gamut of what we're going to do for our agenda, just want to quickly introduce everyone. So we have Haley from Brandfolder, Ellie from Getty Images, and Jacqueline from Canon. Each participant and panelist today will briefly introduce themselves. For today's session, we are going to do the following. We're going to have introductions so everyone knows a little bit more about who we are. We're then going to ask a little bit of questions. We're going to have a poll question on, is your brand damn ready? And then we all met several times over the last few weeks, and we have some questions that we're going to answer together. And that's when we're going to open it up to you on one of your tabs when you see the Q&A, and you can start asking all of us questions. As the moderator for today, I will be looking to the right-hand side on my second screen, where I'll be moderating all the questions and or comments that come through. And without further ado, let's begin the session. Let's do that. All right. My name is John Horodisky. I'm an executive director with Salt Flats. I've been doing all these good damn things, metadata taxonomy, content management, governance, MarTech, all that good stuff for over 20 years. Started off my career with a master's in library and information science and archival studies. So I do come to DAM with that sort of a librarian information science background. Started my career at Electronic Arts, doing their digital asset management system and metadata schema, which was super fun. Very fortunate to have worked in the DAM space ever since. Went into consulting, Fortune 10, 50, 100 and up, consumer goods, retail, media, entertainment, pharma, all industries. I also am an adjunct faculty at San Jose State University, where I teach a graduate course in digital asset management. Very happy with that. In addition to those things, I do a lot of public speaking around the world. Very happy to be a board member of the Journal of Digital Media Management. If you're not a subscriber, I suggest you contact someone from Henry Stewart and add that to your collection. Wrote a book on digital asset management several years ago, and my new book on metadata came out in April this year. And my pronouns are he, him, and his. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to pass it over to Haley. Hello, Haley.
Hi, so I'm Haley. I'm a product marketing manager at Brandfolder. I spent the last 10 years in consumer marketing for a variety of industries, from hospitality and groceries to outdoor recreation. So I definitely understand the different struggles and issues that brands face when it comes to keeping assets organized and available to key stakeholders. And I'm looking very much forward to having this discussion.
Awesome. Thank you. Over to Ellie. Hello, Ellie. How are you today?
Hi, I'm good. Thanks. So my name is Ellie Robertshaw. I'm a senior search editor at Getty Images. My work is managing a controlled vocabulary of keywords that support search for our creative, editorial, and archival content offerings. And our goal is to provide metadata that is accurate, inclusive, and supports natural language search. And my pronouns are she, her.
Thank you very much. And we have Jacqueline. Good evening, Jacqueline. How are you?
Hello, hello. So I am the DAM application owner at Canon EMEA. I started my DAM journey in, well, about 3 years ago, 3 and a bit years ago. So I started at a managed services and consulting agency, taking care of count as a content librarian, assisting on some consultation cases and so forth, and then one thing led to another. Now I am working in-house at a company with the DAM as my baby. So I take care of processes, making sure that things are running properly, listening to other stakeholders, making sure that we are having all the features ready to support our business needs. We're also working on some metadata schema. John will talk about this, and yeah, my pronouns is, well, she, her, and her. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we get going, just a reminder, we have, when you look at your Hubelo screen, you've got the chat box and you've got the questions, and so if you see me looking off to the right side, I'm not distracted. I'm looking at the Q&A and the questions coming in. Quick shout out. There's a few people who want to say Denver's in the house. That's awesome. Well done, Denver. Love it. You have some fans. That's always fun. All right. Is your brand damn ready? So we met a few times over the last week, month and a half, a little bit, and look at all these things. I love a word cloud. Yeah, I'm a sucker for a word cloud. You say that fast. Look at all these things. We've got integration, obviously, damn. We've got metadata, work in progress. We've got product information management. Yes, PIM, it happens. We've got rights management. We've got user adoption. We've got diversity, equity, and inclusion. We have workflow. Love the word workflow. This speaks to probably many of us on the listening and participating today, but there's probably other stuff. So when you think about, is your brand damn ready, these are the types of things that will affect you at all points on your journey. Some of these things will be ongoing and some of these things will affect you at a few times, but you got to be prepared for these things. And what we want to do today is to share our stories about being ready, but then have you, the audience, ask questions, and maybe you want to share some of your issues of being potentially damn ready. So with the word cloud to sort of inspire us and think of those types of issues, you know, we love a poll question. So if you go to the poll tab on your screen, on your Hubelo panel thing, let's play a game. We love a poll. So the poll question is, what are your drivers to consider for your damn journey? We have user adoption. We have integration, we have ROI, which stands for return on investment. We have metadata, we have governance, we have workflow, we have all of this and more. We have also, there's some other stuff I don't want to talk about, the other category. So use your poll tab place, and let's see what the answers might be. And if there's the other, because I'm watching the chat, feel free to throw in your other into the chat and be like, oh, these are our issues, because it would be fun to share. So let's start the polling now. Oh, the polling's going. Oh, look at the answers. All right, panelists, before I reveal, what do y'all think some of the answers might be for this? Anyone want to take some guesses? Anyone?
My
No?
guess would be ROI.
ROI?
Constant topic.
Good. Jacqueline, what are you feeling today? What are you feeling?
Governance, maybe?
Artists, maybe. Haley, do you have any ideas? It's pretty
I'm gonna
overwhelming.
go user adoption or workflow.
Nice, nice. The overwhelming, they don't give percentages, but the overwhelming response by a long shot is number 7, which is all of this and more. So I think we're interesting. No one tapped on ROI. Don't tell your boss. That's interesting. I mean, everyone got some sort of bits in there, but overwhelmingly number 7, all of this and more. And that's probably a good answer because it's kind of all these things. Some of these things will bubble up a little bit more depending on where we are on our journey, but I love this. So again, thank you very much for participating. We love an interactive audience. That's great. All of this and more. And a lot of people are even going in the chat saying 777, mostly user adoption and integration. They need each other. They do need each other. Guess what else they need? They need workflow, they need metadata, they need all those things. So I love this. So thank you for participating, everybody. All right. So now that we're getting the excitement of what we want to talk about, here are the 3 questions that we've met it as a team over the last little while. So the 3 questions we're going to review together are you ready? Pretty simple, but kind of hardish, I guess, but you know, depending on where we are. Number 2, what are your key drivers? That's a spelling mistake for your brand and damn. Number 3, what is the best advice to prepare for and have your brand damn ready? On this participation today, some of you might be on different parts of your journey. Some of you may have just acquired a dam. Some of you may have had a dam pushed to you. Some of you may be year 2, year 3. Some of you may be thinking of a new one. So we're in different places. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the screens so we can all look at each other. But the first question is truly, are you ready? So no pun intended, but are you ready? Jacqueline, good evening. So are you ready? Is your brand ready? How do you feel?
Well, we have our dam for quite a few years now. It's predates me by quite a little bit. It's been running. People have been using it. There, of course, with technology advancement and we have a lot of areas to improve on and to get even better. And all the everything that we mentioned in the poll question. So just we can always do better and make sure that we have user adoption, integration. We've got pretty cool integration. We can talk about that later, and so forth. So we're in a good place to do what we're doing, continue doing what we're doing, and actually get to the nitty-gritty and making sure that we can support what we need in the company.
To get ready, to get brand damn ready. That's a tongue twister as I say that multiple times. To get to that readiness state, were you prepared with things to help you along the way, or were you just sort of thrown into it and say, here we go, welcome to DAM? Was it a mixture? Or?
It's a bit of both. But it's very exciting because you have some sort of infrastructure, what works and what doesn't, and you have all these exciting ideas trying to make it better. Like I like pulling things apart and putting back together. It's a lot of fun, really, and you learn so much more talking to different stakeholders. So I'd say we are ready to make changes and make DAM awesome.
I love that. I love the enthusiasm. Yeah. Well done. Haley, what do we think? I mean, being brand damn ready. It's a big statement. We saw the results from the audience. People are definitely saying it's a whole bunch of different stuff. How are your feelings on being ready? Are you ready? Are you prepared for all this, or?
I think all brands are damn ready. I think DAM can solve so many issues for so many teams that it just, even if you're at a very basic level, a DAM is really going to help your team get everything organized and take everything 4 steps further than you've been, just in the efficiency and workflow and approval processes. There's just so many ways you can make a DAM work for your organization.
Mm-hmm. And with being ready, obviously that affects things like people, process, technology, data. Have you seen like a nice mix? I mean, obviously, you have to work, you have the benefit of working with many different clients. Have you seen like, where those things have sort of played with each other very well, the people, process, technology, data?
Oh, for sure. I mean, what a DAM provides for a lot of our customers is just a single source of truth where everything lives. You don't have everything stored in 18 different places. You can actually find files. You don't have to worry about versions or trying to find the right one. It just gets a lot of the busy work off of people's plates so they can really focus on the job they should be doing rather than just finding things for other people.
It's true. I love the way that you sort of started out with, yes, everyone's ready. I'd love to hear the questions that come out of this one, but that's good. Ellie, when the question, are you ready? How are things working with you and Getty Images?
I'm as ready as I'll ever be.
Good answer.
I'm like Jacqueline in that our DAM predates me. But I think a DAM is only as good as it's up to date and functional, and it has buy-in from its stakeholders, and as much as it can meet the current demands of today. So it's just kind of like a constant process of keeping it functional, keeping it current, making sure that it is meeting the demands of your brand and that that's known throughout the business. So I mean, I like it. It means, there's never a dull moment, and you can make a mistake and fall flat on your face, but then you learn something. Yeah, there's I would say that our brand is DAM ready, but it's just a matter of keeping your eyes on keeping your eyes on the priorities at all times, and just kind of not losing focus on what is it we need from our dam right now, and what are we trying to get from our dam, and like, how can we make that happen? So, yeah.
And definitely, oh, it froze. Just a little bit of a lag there. Oh. I mean, and obviously with being prepared and ready, this is something we've talked about before, and I know Jacqueline loves this topic of governance, but you know, governance is potentially one way that we can help ourselves be ready, because we can be looking forward, we can, you know, keep current. Are you all of you, do you have some good governance examples, or you're practicing or at least involved in some type of governance in where you are? I'll start with Jacqueline.
Me again. So we had a bit of free for all at the beginning of our dam journey. So coming in, looking into this, my predecessors tried, they implemented a lot of things. I think fundamentally speaking, I think making sure that all the users or any sort of content contributor understand the importance of governance, why we need to have a dam. I think Haley and Ellie also mentioned having a single source of truth, having everything sorted, making sure, you know, we don't rely on carrier pigeons anymore, and being able to find all the assets that we need. It's important, and how we could work together to achieve that, and so that means governance is very important, making sure that the uploads are done properly, the metadata is reliable and relevant to what we need, and having a system, so like even workflow and project management, they are interlinked, so that is vital, I'd say.
Haley or Ellie, what are your governance type experiences to help? Again, it's a great way to always be ready. I mean, I loved Haley, how you sort of said we're already there, but governance is a nice way to keep yourself ready. Have you had some good, you know, good stories to share about governance?
Yeah, just being in such a big organization and understanding all the impacts. Like, you want to make a change for search, you have justification for it, you have pretty good business case for it, but then who are the stakeholders in ingestion, in contributor relations, what are kind of all the possible impacts of it, and who needs to be involved in a change. I think one of the challenges of being involved in DAM at such a large organization is just really understanding the governance yourself, and like really getting it and knowing like who all needs to be involved in necessary changes, and then knowing like where you really need a firm, like what needs a lot of governance, like anything that describes the identity of a model and an image. Like, that's first of all so important, and also it involves someone's identity of a real person. So knowing when that really needs to be set in stone and is a little bit more untouchable within your DAM, and like making sure that everyone understands that is so important. And then knowing where things can be a bit more agile is also important. And we constantly wrestle with that, and we evaluate that. Yeah, governance is so important.
Haley, what have you seen in terms of, you get to see a lot of perspectives. What have you seen in governance to help people to keep being ready, I guess?
Yeah, I think having your core like tagging rules and the things everyone follows, having automations built in where you don't have to overthink things, it's just already done for you in the metadata and you don't have to worry about it. Also having insights where you can really look into each asset or each organization within your DAM and figure out who's using it, what's being used, making sure that the effort you're putting into all of this is really making impact. can really take all that to the next level, where you have like that really deep understanding of how people are using it and what changes you need to make without just making assumptions and being surprised.
Because nobody wants to be surprised unless it's a good surprise, but sometimes they do happen. So to play off that a little bit, then if I asked you then, Haley, what are your key drivers for brands, and Dan, like what are you hearing right now? What are people sort of bubbling up to the top of their, like, this is what keeps me up at night?
Yeah,
What are
so
you hearing?
our customers have so many reasons they start their search, and a lot of them are the ones that we all know all too well. The most common issue they're facing is the assets are everywhere. So teams are working in different file storage systems. They have messy naming conventions. Some assets are stored on local hard drives. So everything's just impossible to find. And that's really like the baseline where everyone is brand ready, because you can always solve for that. So teams, I mean, they're getting constant email requests that one document about that they talked about in a meeting last week, where is that? Or, hey, my link expired, can you resend it? And so teams are wasting so much time sending links to assets and resending links to assets that they're unable to really spend dedicated, focused working time on the things that are really going to impact the business and move things forward. There's also the issue of, am I actually using the latest version of this file? It says final v2 Todd's edits final, but is it actually final? And if you're using simple cloud storage, it's hard to know that the version in front of you is really the latest and greatest. And that's really frustrating for a lot of people. I think the last driver that a lot of people that I'm just going to talk about right now is that creatives don't understand if the assets that they're using are not only being used, but if they're being used effectively. When they ship out their latest campaign creative, that's usually it. They don't get any feedback from the field, and they have no real information on how they can improve the content they're creating, or should they even be spending their time making it. And having that disconnect of just sending things out in the world is incredibly inefficient. So what our customers are really looking for is a single source of truth with not only version control and duplicate detection, but they also need something that goes beyond just file storage, with built-in approval flows, proofing options, analytics, other premium features, and integrations with the tools they use every day, so teams can be aligned and work more efficiently together.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, one of the things on the list was ROI, but definitely analytics plays a part in this, because, you know, how can you be ready if you don't know what you're doing? Are you doing it well? Are there opportunities for improvement? So big encouragement to everyone listening, participating today. You know, how are you doing in terms of your analytics and ROI? Are you measuring what's going on? I loved your argument about like the disorganization that happens, but you know, what else is happening beyond the dam? Ellie, what are you sort of seeing in terms of like the drivers for your brand being better dam ready?
I think ROI is a really big one. It's so hard to demonstrate impact. But I think just knowing, like, within your organization, what is important and finding ways to demonstrate that it's important will really help you with your success in DAM. Like, for example, for us, you know, knowing for sure from the model in an image, their gender, their ethnic and racial background, if they have a disability, even if that's more of an invisible disability, or even just where the photo was taken, is like worth its weight in gold. And it's so important. And also just anything to do with video, like video is really exploding for us right now. It has its own unique needs. So just being able to demonstrate, we do need more resources for this, more ways to build it out in our current DAM, for like strong support for these specific needs. And just being able to demonstrate this will have an impact, this will help, you know, with customer satisfaction and conversion. It's difficult because these things are already popular. So they are already, even if they're done poorly, they're already driving revenue, and they're already known as a growth place. So just kind of getting in there and showing, like, with stronger DAM, with more agile, with changes, like these positive changes, this will help us. And it's just, for me, it's so hard to demonstrate that impact. But you just have to get all the data that you can and try it and show that. And then another one is AI, AIML. That's really growing right now. It's amazing what can be done. But it's just understanding for our challenges in our DAM, what specific challenges can it help with? Where do we need guardrails from other more traditional types of metadata? And also just how can our DAM support other initiatives, other machine learning initiatives within the business? Just kind of getting my head around that has been a real learning experience, and also important, I think, because the technology is just going to get more pervasive. And it's just important to understand, like, we don't want to just jump on some kind of bandwagon, but we just have to understand, like, what specifically can it help with, and like, what are the considerations?
That's a good shout out to artificial intelligence and machine learning. It's definitely on people's mind. 5 years ago, it would have been more science fiction, like, ooh, that would be nice, but now it's actually happening. So a lot of people, it could be a driver for them going forward, but, you know, are you being prepared? And I love your shout out to ROI again. I mean, are you measuring? And I would say, are you measuring both qualitatively and quantifiably? Are you measuring with numbers, data? And you're also, you know, are you talking to your users? User adoption was on our list. Are you talking to them? Are they happy or not, and why? We got a whole lot of fun shout outs over your final comment, Haley. That's hilarious. I think people do have a final fear issue. Final 1, final 2, really final. I love this. I mean, come on, just be final. Jacqueline, what are your drivers? What's Canon sort of, you know, influencing that sort of
I
impetus
think
for you?
I would say the one of the most important thing that we need to think about when we're trying to get our DAM brand ready, or doing anything related to DAM or beyond, is making sure we speak the same language.
Yeah.
So yeah, it with the metadata fields, with so we have marketing, product management, we have sales, and different departments in order to push our amazing products to our customers, and everything else, right? So we have different departments, and we may actually be referring to the same thing in different names. So earlier, I know we talked about analytics, ROI, and everything else, but if the different systems store those data under a different field, there's no way of tracking it. So when it comes to integration, our CMS is actually integrated with our DAM. So our DAM pushes the images and videos over to CDNs to be published on websites which are built by the CMS. So making sure that we have one reference ID which doesn't change when we have new versions of the same image, so that the image doesn't get broken, and it is always what we meant for it to look like. It is very important. Otherwise, we don't get what we need our MarTech stack to do. Can't English at this hour, but you know, it is making sure that we're referring to the same thing, and it's also tagging for the analytics people, for the users. For if you put in a keyword which they don't use at all, that keyword is as good as rubbish, because they won't be able to find what they need on the DAM. Asset reusability, which is one of the main, one of the many benefits of having a DAM, that's not a thing anymore. And so there's that. So making sure that we speak the same language, making sure that we are aligned, and when we talk to users or any sort of stakeholders, explaining to them why it is good for you, what's in it for you, why should you be adopting this, because it makes your life easier, because that
Exactly.
helps you track the costs that you put in. creating all those assets and the efforts of distributing them with all the performance tracking and all sort of fun features like the premium features, then that's how we could put numbers to it.
Yeah. And we need that. I love your argument for consistency. I mean, your DAM may connect with the PIM, it may connect to e-commerce, it may connect to something else. Consistency will always win the game. If you have different terms and different, I mean, many of us on the call today might be in global regions where, you know, in different cultures in different parts of the world, the same product might be referred to in a different way. You know, I mean, the fun argument of like chips versus crisps. So we do need to be consistent and always be mindful of your users. And I love your call out to making sure the users are there. All right, final question before we have some great questions from the audience here, but last question. So what is the best advice to be prepared for and have your DAM ready? So this is just a quick, you know, what do you think? What's the best advice for the people listening today and participating? What's that best advice? And Jacqueline, what do you think? What is that best advice we can give?
Get librarians and listen to your users.
Users, somehow we seem to forget them sometimes. Like they're there, they're the ones using the system, no pun intended. Like they, you know, ask them. I've seen so many people who forget to sort of review with them, whether it's quarterly or governance or other. So okay, so users, well done. Okay, users and metadata. Okay, librarians, get them. All right, good advice. All right, Jeff, good. Haley, what do you think? What are some, you know, these best advice sort of opportunities?
So sort of in the same vein, but it's really understanding the asset lifecycle and who's using those assets. So if you understand who's using the assets, it helps you understand the priority of what's going to get moved into your DAM first. It'll help you set up the proper tagging, metadata, organization, and rules for how your DAM's set up, because having clear expectation during onboarding and implementation will make everything more smoothly, and making sure it's the right fit for your organization and you're not just copying someone else's structure and assuming it's going to work for you. You need to make sure that you understand who is using what and build it from there.
Yeah. Guess what? Everyone does have different needs. And again, going back to the users and user adoption and all those qualitative analysis that can be done, you know, highly encourage everyone, go talk to your users quarterly, surveys that you can do, ask them, see how they're doing. You'll learn a lot from them. And, you know, I'm just always surprised that some people don't take that time to sort of work with their users. So it's a good thing to have. So Ellie, what are your sort of opportunities for, you know, the best advice? What would be that best advice that you would give people listening today?
First, I just want to plus one what Jacqueline said about consistent language. I think that's so important, and our DAM is huge, and we just see it over and over again how important it is to have consistent language and language that fits your brand and your company, right? Like it can't sound too much like, even if you're a librarian, it can't sound too much like a card catalog if you're like in tech or in e-commerce or whatever. Yeah, I would just say like really start with what your brand is, what the needs of your brand is, and understand your users, but also understand your customers. A lot of the metadata I work with is customer facing, and just really starting with what is our brand, who are our customers, what are their needs, and how are their needs different today than they were like 6 months ago is just really important to consider.
Yeah, they change all the time. There's some questions I want to get to, one specifically because it ties in. But before we get to the question, I do want everyone to join me in thanking Jacqueline, Haley, and Ellie for sharing their thought leadership today. So thank you very much for that. I think there's some great pieces of advice that we can all take away to be a little bit more ready. But this question is interesting because it ties into something similar that you've all sort of touched upon. And this question comes from Madeline. And the question is, since the word governance has come up in our discussion, how do you govern keywording for diversity in this day and age? And I'm a huge fan of this topic, but I want to bring it to the panelists, like whether it's examples from work or what you're seeing with clients, what would you recommend in terms of governing things like diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility? Anyone want to just sort of start?
I might throw one little thing in. I think it's called accessibility is very important. Doing the captions and so forth. It is to make sure that people who are visually impaired or colorblind or anything, making sure that they know what asset they're dealing with, because they could be very capable in their jobs, but there are certain limitations that people don't notice. So that's quite important, making sure they are covered. And another thing is I had a tiny bit of fun. Well, I had a little fun story to share, which I shared with you in our preparation before, that it is always very tricky to tag models, which I think we already touched on earlier, that there are two metadata fields in our DAM, which I need to change right now to be more reflective. So that's something that I think a lot of companies are actively working on their DAM. One of them is people age, and the other is people race. It's a drop-down menu. It looks a bit like a dating profile right now. So we have like different age range and things like that. So and I asked my predecessor or something, I was like, how was that implemented in the first place? Because I want to understand why before I make changes. Yeah, I think we copied from another from another, like a photo library or something like that, because that's how they worked. But the thing is, it needs to be relevant. It needs to reflect what people need and in corporate DEI. So I just want to throw that one out there. It's don't rush into doing that. Make sure you do it right and get professionals to doing it.
Haley and Ellie, what are you seeing in terms of helping manage for diversity, equity, inclusion? Because it is something that's happening everywhere in all industries.
Yeah, I think for Getty, you just really can't be complacent. And you have to think about what terms you're using. Think about not just your customers, but everyone in your company that has to see the terms you're using, and the contributors and the models themselves who, we also have our models choose from a list, and that list has to make people comfortable. And this is an area where we have fallen short in the past, and we're trying to do better. We had Caucasian ethnicity as our keyword for white people for way too long. We really lagged on that. And our reason was because, well, it's on the model release, and the model release is difficult to change, and so much depends on the model release and this and that. And we really, I think, weren't considering enough just the comfort of people, of everyone in our org. And you just have to listen to people. Everyone, even if they're not in DAM, has something to contribute. And if they tell you something, you need to listen. So just understanding what the terms are, even if they're not customer facing, just make sure everyone's comfortable. And don't try and, like, if something changes tomorrow and they're using a new term is being used, like on Twitter or whatever, you don't need to jump on that. Like, just keep an eye on it and just understand, maybe read a little bit about what it means and then think about it. But just listening to people and making sure everyone's comfortable is I think important, as much as you can do that.
And I would say start right from the beginning for the model release forms. If they self-identify in terms of gender, et cetera, that is very important all the way through in terms of what the marketing departments are looking for. And I think they can also be questioned in terms of what is proper diversity, equity, inclusion going forward. The words matter. Cisgender wasn't even a word until 15 years ago. So let's be very mindful of that. Our time is up. The one question that got a lot of really good feedback was how any advice in encouraging their new team for training. How do you get them to watch more stuff? I would say if you have a new team, you're going to do a lot of training. Food is a great motivator. Tie it into HR evaluations. I think that's a great evaluator. Really, really quickly, anyone else? How would you get people to start doing more training? Any advice? Make them.
We have like a demo set up for all new employees coming in, where it's just like a sandbox environment where you can play around without breaking anything. And I think that's a great tool. Just build a sandbox and let people go wild. One thing that I think our team really does really well is you have a project that you have to set up your own. One of our features is called brand portal. So you have to set up a portal that introduces yourself to the organization, and then that's sent through our general Slack. So everyone sees it and gets a little bit about you. And I think that's a cool way to get people into it.
Yeah.
I have a more evil suggestion. When we grant user access, when we grant user access to our DAM, they need to go through training before they get access. That's how we do it.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. The word that was used by Amanda was without being overwhelming. I mean, they should be so excited to be a part of this new DAM that they just want to learn and be eager as it is. Definitely, I've seen where it's, including people in part of the process, whether it's through like a governance council or something, and allow them to be a part of the process. But training is generally fun. Maybe that's just me being a nerd, but I do think training is quite exciting, especially for new users. And I'm looking at you, Haley. I mean, you see a lot of this recurring new users. I mean, wouldn't you sort of say like it's an exciting time to jump into their journey on DAM and sort of figure it out? No? Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's super exciting. It can be a little overwhelming when you come in and everything's already there. So providing ways where people can play around and get used to it without like the fear of, am I going to delete something, is I think always going to be beneficial. You can have fun, but it's protected.
Just don't delete everything.
Yeah.
One more question came in because we've only got like 2 minutes left, and it's so obviously diversity, equity, inclusion is an issue because we have another sort of question. In cases where you don't have the model information related to identities, whether it's race, ethnicity, gender, ability, do you assign identities through descriptive metadata based on what you see? We're struggling with this. So interesting. So you don't have a model release form. You don't know. Do you potentially assume? Do you write a description? What are, in the last sort of like 2 minutes-ish, what are you, any of you sort of seeing these types of instances? And what have you done? Or what are you doing?
It's a really tough situation and we don't assume, but we just don't. It's not worth it.
Jacqueline or Haley, you seen those types of instances?
It depends on what that image or what those assets are for. What purpose does it serve, right? Is it if that influences what market you're gonna put it in, it depends on, well, it's a bit like usage rights, right? Without usage rights, you can't really use them because you don't know whether you can and whether it is appropriate. And I think it's similar to Ellie. It's important to figure that one to have that one out and figured, because it all ties into documentation and governance, because you need to have those attached to it in order to use them appropriately.
I think for what Shelby's asking here, I think this is a great opportunity to go back to your marketing teams and sort of introduce new process for when the photo shoot is being done, saying, hey, that's great. You're photographing fall 23. When you're doing that, let's maybe change the model release form so that people can self-identify. So you do know, and I go right back to Ellie. I love it. Don't assume. We don't know. And I think for the last X amount of years, we've just been assuming a lot in the content we see coming through marketing, whether it's video, imagery, other. So don't assume. I think it's a sort of a call to action for all of us today listening to maybe go ask better questions right at the start to learn a little bit more about potentially who this is going to be affecting and who are part of the imagery. I'm getting the sign that we are done. All right. Jacqueline, Haley, Ellie, incredible panel. This is excellent. I think everyone attending hopefully is a little bit more prepared to be ready going forward. Hopefully if you want to connect to any of us, I think you can find us on LinkedIn and other. But again, on behalf of everyone here, thank you, Jacqueline, Haley, and Ellie for a great panel. And everyone have a great rest of your day participating in the event, and see you all very soon. Thank you, everyone.